Hi, everybody, and welcome to the first edition of Thinking Out Loud. I am so excited about this program because what we're going to do is discuss certain topics, no holds bar. We're going to say what's on our mind and have a great time. So if you're listening, go ahead and leave a comment in the comment box, and as soon as I introduce the guest, we'll introduce you as well. So our first guest is Wesley Jordan from Wealthbridge Marketing. Hi, Wesley.
Hello, everybody.
You want to tell us something about your business?
Sure. I started Wealthbridge Marketing about a year ago, and it's a website dedicated to helping businesses grow online through online marketing and capturing a larger audience through what they're doing online. So it's a supersized sort of hosting system that is designed to drive business into your sales pipeline and explode your sales.
Nice. And our other guest is Gary Ditterline. Hi, Gary.
Hello.
You want to tell us something about A&G Synergy?
Yeah, A&G Synergy is I guess you could call it the parent company of today's visions. We are also a small company that is diversified into various other areas such as auditing services, gaming, and I do a blog dealing with the connection between poker and life. I've seen a lot of correlations between poker and the whole game we call life, and I comment on those kinds of things. We also have a photography section, an art section, and oh, by the way, I have my own IT services department consisting of one. My beautiful wife, Arizona. A little bit about myself. I've been on this earth about 53 years, and I'm not afraid to admit it. For 15 of those years, I was an officer in the United States Army and participated in several conflicts overseas. And then I was discharged from the Army and have spent the last 14 or so years as an auditor with the United States Army. And that's one of the things that we're offering with A&G Synergy is audit services, internal audit services. I can provide performance audits to let you know. Maybe you would equate it to an efficiency kind of person. I can look at your business. I can tell you, I can make recommendations on how to run it more efficiently or effectively, and then I also do some financial audit services. I don't do taxes.
Cool.
So that's a little bit about myself. Back to you.
Thank you. And have we had anybody in the audience that you want to introduce, Rayne?
I do too. We have got Tammy Cook in the audience, and she's, I don't know if you'll have to pin my thumbnail, Arizona, in order to bring it up. Yeah. And she's saying she loves the trailer. It looks great. So you're getting some kudos there. Yeah. And Tammy's also saying, Catherine, we need to pay attention so we can finish our website. And a shout out to Joyce Dickens. Not sure if she's with us right now or not, but she's got it in a calendar. So if she's not watching it live, we're looking forward to it on the replay. Yeah.
Cool. And I didn't introduce our little burst of sunshine, Rayne Dowell. Thank you so much for agreeing to be my wing lady.
Oh, it's my pleasure. My pleasure. Looking forward to learning lots.
So what we're going to discuss today, there's lots of shows talking about the content, and you've got to make sure you've got this type content and you've got that type content. People talk about the design. Make sure you place things where the eyes flow. What you don't hear discussed very often is the people who are actually involved in creating what we view on the web. And I thought that would be a great topic of conversation. So, I know that we have web designers and there are coders, and the coders are broke up into so many different groups. I thought it would allow Wesley, who is just the pro. He's my salvation for today's visions. He was the guy that I finally found. So I thought I would let him discuss some of the different things, and we can pop some answers or questions to him. And in the audience, if you got some questions, please ask.
Okay, cool. Well, the main three groups that it's broken into would be graphics designers, web application developers, and website designers. The first group, graphics designers, are typically not coders. These are people who like to draw pictures with their computers, and they're the ones that make the web look really, really good.
Am I wrong in the fact that many of your graphic designers can also do like basic HTML code? I hesitate to call HTML coding, but
yes, a lot of the times that's required of them whenever they go into an organization, that they have to learn those skills. You'll find a lot of them are also quite good at jQuery and some front-end development so that they can bring their designs to life.
Mm-hmm.
However, I've also seen a large segment of graphics designers who don't do anything with code. They simply draw pictures.
Okay.
So the next group, web application developers, is really broken up into a bunch of different types of people. You'll have your application architects who think out the program. They decide, they work with the end users, figure out how it's going to be built, what the different views are going to be, how the database will work, and things like that. They'll work.
So kind of the flow of the website.
Absolutely, yeah. Or the application itself. So when you get into a website designer, that's quite a bit different than a web application developer. So a web application is something like WordPress is a web application, or Salesforce, Google Mail. These are all web applications. Instead of considering them websites, they're apps that run online. And so in that, you have a lot of different people. You'll have your back-end developers who work a lot on the server-side code. That might be Java or .NET, PHP. A new one is Node. And there's several of them out there. You've got your front-end developers that will work on building out everything that you see in the application. So they'll build all the views, the screens, and a lot of the times they work directly with the back-end developers to pull that data into the front end and be able to represent it. That is becoming more and more where most of the applications live these days, is in the front end. So front-end development a long time ago was something that graphic designers really had a hold on, and they would do a lot of it. Now it's becoming more of a specialty, and you'll see front-end developers who know all sorts of libraries, some of them being like Angular and, of course, jQuery, and there's just a whole bunch of different libraries that you have to know to be able to work with the back-end servers these days. And then you also have your database designers and managers who work on the data structures that hold all of the information for the web application. And that's an entirely different group of people. A lot of the times that could also be the back-end developers that are doing that if they have enough experience with that. And so yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, most small businesses are not going to try to hire someone who, the graphic designer, and then they're not going to hire 3 or 4 people to do their website. They're looking to hire one person or one company.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And so there's a lot of people like myself who specialize in all of it. Through the years, I've learned how to do graphics design. Now, a lot of the times I still work with external designers who really specialize in that so that you can get that amazing look because while what I can do with graphics design is cool, I can see, where I definitely fall short there sometimes. But when it comes to application architecture, the front-end design, application design, back-end development, front-end development, database, project management, there's people out there like myself who have been consultants for years who have learned the entire aspect of the industry. And that includes website design, which is a completely different beast. So with website design, you have. Before I go on, are there any questions?
No, I think they're drinking in the information.
It's almost scary, isn't it? You hear all these hard words.
So as a consultant, and when I do go into companies, a lot of the times we do have these different types of people. And a lot of the times you'll see a new type of person emerging, which is specifically a user interface engineer. And that's somebody who studies how people use applications and how they use the web. And they work with the graphics designers and the front-end developers to create a product that is more appealing to the end user in that way. So, and I've only been at one client so far that hired a specific UI/UX designer, but it was really cool to get to work with somebody like that because they have this completely different thought process when it comes to building things. And then, so as a consultant, that's what I do a lot of, is web application development. That's what I get hired to do a lot. More and more so through Wealthbridge marketing. I'm doing a ton of website design, building websites. Now this breaks up into two different categories. There's your designers who understand a particular content management system, most popular being WordPress, yeah. And then there's Joomla is another one that's very popular. Drupal is out there. So some of these are really powerful, and as a programmer you can do a lot with them. But with WordPress, it's very easy to use from an end user perspective, and so you'll find that is probably about 75% of what's out there on the web as far as content management systems. And with the web designers, they come in an entirely different range of people. You'll have somebody who might know graphic design and they say they're a web designer, but they don't know anything about setting up the plugins or working the shopping cart system. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to ask you, if you have people who say that they do something, but they don't really have the knowledge, what type of questions should a company be asking or a person be asking when they're trying to hire a website designer or a web application designer?
I don't think you should ask them any questions. People can say whatever they want. Take a look at their work and check their references. The work that they say they did, talk to the people who own that web property and find out if they did that work and how they worked out with the team over there. Because I've seen, one of the things I do whenever I hire somebody to be a web application developer is, we'll have a great interview, everything's going really nicely, they talk a big game, and then I have them sit down and do my tests that I've developed years ago, and that's where, everybody either shines or they don't. You can really see their skills whenever they sit down and take that test. And, so it really just boils down to what can they do. So always check references, look at the work that they've done, make sure that it correlates with the people that they say they did it for, and find out how they are. So
that makes perfect sense. The other thing that I've come across, because I've done quite a bit of web design also, is when I'm working with clients, they don't quite understand what their responsibility is versus what the web designer's responsibility is. For example, they'll give you one sentence and they say, well, I want you to write 3 paragraphs of content from this. And they get a little bit upset when you say, well, I don't know your business, I can't really do that. which brings in another whole different professional, which is your copywriter. And copywriters are, there's a whole new genre of copywriters just for website content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, specifically blog content and populating your blogs with fresh new content all the time. That's specific to your industry, and hopefully based on your keyword matrix if you've done your research. And so, and that's probably the most expensive part of building your website is the copywriters, more so than anything. I mean, it's not a challenge to spend $1,000 a month on something like that to and walk away going, wow, I only ended up with that much. But these people spend so much time writing each individual article and testing it for uniqueness. That's one of the tests that Google runs whenever they check your content, is how unique is this? How much of this has been plagiarized? And you're only allowed just a tiny little percentage of plagiarism that they think might be accidental before you're counted against. So when you use tools like the WPMU dev tool that automatically pulls blog content from other sites, that will automatically put what's called a canonical link into the HTML to let the search engines know that you're not claiming responsibility for it. Otherwise, your site would be penalized for that.
Can you, okay, so can you explain the word canonical link? That's a new one for many people. It was for me.
It's just a hidden link that's behind the scenes in the HTML code that says that this article came from that place. And it's something that is, a lot of the times if you're using a search engine optimization plugin inside of WordPress, then you'll have that option inside of the SEO for that page, is to refer this page to another.
Is that also called backlinks, Wesley?
Yes. Yeah, you can link to the original article, and that's called a backlink if you have the actual link on the page.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that's, I believe that the auto blogging tool from WPMU Dev does that as well. It'll add those links in there automatically if you ask it to.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So.
So when somebody's setting up a website, do you recommend WordPress for them?
Depends on what they're doing. I have a multitude of clients where it makes sense for them to use WordPress based on the type of thing that they're trying to do. Maybe it's a simple shopping cart. Maybe they just are using it as a landing page for some marketing that they're doing through search engine marketing, or maybe in billboards and things like that. Other people need a lot of back-end development work where there's going to be just a lot of different things that would take a long time to try and build out in WordPress with plugins that you can do very easily if you set your if you start from with an enterprise development system like PHP Volume is a good one. You can use that, be up and running very quickly, and then have a static front end but still push your content out through whatever CMS you put into the back end. So it really depends. If you have a lot of custom functionality, a lot of database type work that you need to have done, then it's better to use a custom app than it would be WordPress. So, but if you're wanting to display pictures, portfolios, you know, a lot of social media, and you don't have that sort of thing, then there's probably a plugin that'll do what you want in WordPress.
So we just got a comment. Did you see that, Rayne? Joyce is watching. She's been here, but when she clicks on join the audience, she loses the ability to comment.
Let me see.
That is interesting. I'm sorry for that, Joyce.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to. Maybe she might need to restart her computer.
So, Gary, what are your thoughts about the different professionals involved in designing a web application or a website?
Well, the interesting thing that I've heard so far for the last few minutes is that I don't understand a lot of the terminology. I don't know what a front end of a website is. I don't know what a back end of the website is. I don't know what WordPress is to the most part. And I'm an IT auditor because I specialize in information technology. I know what I know what a network is. I know what an architect is. I know what technicians are. I don't know about the difference between what was mentioned, the web designer, the graphics designer, and I understand from a business perspective. And if I may pontificate for a few minutes, if I don't know what the terminology is, that doesn't help. That doesn't help me get to a point where I can actually hire for my business the right person. And it's probably incumbent upon me as a business owner to do a little research, and so I can talk intelligently with the person that presents themselves as either a web designer or a application designer and that kind of stuff. But as soon as the application designer or the web designer starts talking, I don't have the technical expertise to understand whether he's blowing smoke up my skirt or is telling me something true and for certain. And I can look at his. Wesley had said something to the effect that they need to show you their work. Unless I have another, say I'm wanting a web design, unless I have somebody else's web design sitting side by side, I don't know what I'm comparing it to. There's no basis for the details that they point out to me. So sometimes one has to dumb down the techno speak, if you will.
Well, here's a simple way to do it. Get 4 bids. If 3 of them are around $5,000 and one's around $1,000, then you can weed out one of them very quickly because you know that's not going to be any good. In simple terms, that's an easy way to do it. If you don't really know what you're looking at or what you're looking for, it's always going to help you if you call their contacts, talk to the people that they've done the work for, that they say they've done the work for. Find out from them what you like and didn't like. But if really what you're wanting to start with is a website, then WordPress is an excellent way to do that. And you don't need to know all of these other terms. You simply just need a website designer to build a website. If you need a shopping cart, if you need a photo gallery, and if you're trying to reinvent something like Salesforce.com, and you don't know anything about the stuff that we've talked about, don't try and reinvent Salesforce.com. Otherwise, start with something easy like WordPress and work out from there. And get a lot of different quotes. Find out from the people that you have worked for them. But it's incumbent upon the people who are looking to have the work done to do their due diligence and ascertain if that person that they're talking to is really who they say they are.
No, I
do what they say they can do. Yeah.
Well, I was going to go because we were getting comments also from the audience that they don't understand the terminology either. And so the front end is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Wesley, but in very simple terms, the front end is what you see when you browse.
That's correct.
A website. The back end is all the gizmos that make it work. It can be quite complicated. I mean, WordPress is 700, and the last time I looked, the basic WordPress install is like 744 files. Every one of those files is part of making the website work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the back end. You also have a database that stores all your information. A database, picture it like a spreadsheet.
in a lot of ways.
A better way of picturing it for some people is a filing cabinet. You know, you've got everything nice and neat, organized in certain areas, and you know where to grab it.
Yeah, and WordPress itself, in and of itself, is just the application. You have to have themes before you can see anything. So without the themes, there's nothing there, and the themes is where you begin to introduce your HTML components and
So
get
the themes are the front end.
The front end, yes.
And that 744 files that you go nuts trying to install is the back end.
That's right.
And naturally, that was unfair to WordPress because it's a 5-minute install. It is so easy.
That's one of the things I wanted to touch on is people do seem to get confused about that. Using getting HostGator to set up a $5 site for you and then installing WordPress and expecting that everything's going to be great is a huge mistake that people make. You don't have the level of security that you need. You don't have tools that will store static copies of your web pages, which is called caching, which makes it extremely fast. That's something that's very important to Google whenever they're indexing sites to see where you place in the ranking. If you want to be higher up, you have to be faster.
Right.
Also, when you come to a company like mine, for example, Wealthbridge, one of the reasons why people use my company is that I license thousands of dollars worth of premium plugins that they have available to them. If a company were, it's literally less expensive to host through Wealthbridge than it is to do it on your own in most cases because I've already licensed all those premium plugins. I have all the caching tools in place. I have redundant backups. I have the caching systems. All of this work that goes into making a site really good and really important to search engines, and something that people will stay on when they get there, is not something that just comes out of the box with WordPress. It gives you the ability to build a WordPress site or a website with a blog, yes, but you're going to have to go out and find all the themes and plugins, worry about all the security, do all of that other stuff yourself. So I think that's a bit of a misnomer out there in the world as far as how easy WordPress is.
The other misnomer that I wanted to make sure got mentioned, I see it all the time where they say, you have unlimited bandwidth, you have unlimited storage. Now, come on, folks. A computer has a set amount of storage. It is limited. And so if you read the fine print on a lot of these, they'll say if excessive usage, and they get to determine what the excessive usage is, and they'll just shut you down. I've had it happen to a couple of clients. So be real careful and read all the fine print.
In HostGator's print, it talks specifically about that because everything's being unlimited. And they base unlimited on the typical usage of a site, and so you have a little bit of leeway in there to, to go over just a little bit. But really, if you try to turn your HostGator site into another YouTube and host, 20 terabytes worth of videos, you're not going to be able to do it. They're not going to ever let you do that.
Right. Exactly.
So it's based on what a typical company would do.
Interesting.
Rayne, we got anything from the audience?
Well, we got Tammy back. She's watching on her computer and using her phone to comment.
Yay!
So that's awesome. But it looks like we're running, we've got a minute left until the end here, so.
Yeah, well, I want to thank Gary for being here and keeping us from getting way too techie.
Thank you, Gary.
Yeah, let's do that.
And Wesley, thank you so much for all the information. And thank you for working with us on Today's Visions website. I really appreciate you very much.
Absolutely.
And Rayne, I don't have the applause app up, so you've got to do the applause again. Thank you to the beautiful Rayne for running a comment track and being my wing woman. And I hope y'all join us next week. And we're going to be talking about a totally different subject and thinking out loud. Y'all have a good night.